Hey, Dan here, and in this video I want to walk you through a new organizational system I've been experimenting with. If you follow this channel, you know that one of the things I will fully admit to is those of us who are big into sort of life optimization, like finding better ways to do things or new systems or life hacking type stuff, tend to do so because we might be wired a little bit differently and we need all the help we can get to actually stay productive. But the system I've kind of created and I've used before a bit differently when I was living in Spain and had an insanely productive time. It's where I published my first few books, where I launched my coaching practice, relaunched my website. This was all in a 6-month period while I was also being possibly chased by the Colombian drug cartel. If you want that full story, you'll have to wait for my upcoming book. So it's a very productive and tested way to do it. And I've modified it recently because what I found is I have so many different things on the go that I change what I'm doing quite a bit. And so having a very set structure, like in the morning I write, in the afternoon at that time it was in the afternoon I did coaching calls and I did marketing work. It doesn't work as well now because things change quite a bit kind of week to week. And the other thing I really like about this schedule, and you'll see I'm going to switch cameras and actually take you over to where I plan this all out because I do it pen and paper because I'm old-fashioned and very tactile like that, is that it forces me to do things I usually might avoid doing or not necessarily do in my work. So I tend to be more fueled by the creation side, making videos, writing, as well as the helping side, like coaching and the interacting with people. And I get behind on my marketing and promotion and the things that you have to do if you have the kind of business like mine. And so I'm going to now cut over to the other footage and I'll explain more about what this looks like and the different, things I'm up to with it. Okay, so what I actually started out with was reviewing my goals overall, what I was trying to accomplish. And so you can see here, there's 3 main focuses there that I had down. One is to make this new book incredible. So if you don't know, I've published books before. I actually went over the math the other day. I'd never looked at my sales numbers in like detail and added them all up, which sounds like BS when people say that, but it's true. And I'm well into like crazy best-selling numbers. So that's awesome. But of the books I have published, there's nothing that I would like go on TV and say this is my best work. Like I gave everything to this. That's what I want with this new book. So that's why I don't say be a bestseller, sell this many copies. I don't care about that. On this book I've been working on, my pure focus is just making it the best I can make it, and that those who like me and are kind of followers will just love it, and that's it. So that's the first. The second is FFSS, which is the Free Freelancer Self-Study Program. And the Free Freelancer is a group coaching program I have for freelancers and coaches. And it's very intensive. It's interactive. It's one-on-one time with me. It's group coaching. And for some people, that doesn't work for them. They'd rather just do it on their own time and have all the material. So that's something I'm working on. My goal with that is to make it so people really follow through, because on most online training programs, you have something like a 10% or lower follow-through rate. But in the Free Freelancer, it's much, much higher. I think in our first class, it was like 85%, 90%. And I want to figure out a way to make a self-study version that can get close to that. And then it is to grow to 10,000 subscribers on YouTube. So if you aren't currently a subscriber, come on, help me out. So those are the goals. And then what I did is I worked backwards into what activities will lead to them, right? So in terms of the book, you have writing, you have editing. In terms of the free freelancer self-study, of content creation, and then different areas, right? Things I do, coaching, which isn't directly related to the goals, but just is a big part of what I do, filming, admin time, marketing, interviews, and PR. So I'd like to be doing more interviews as a guest, so going on other people's podcasts or channels or things like that. And I've laid that all out here. One of the benefits of this kind of setup is that you can make time for things that you might normally neglect. So personally, I tend to really enjoy like the writing, the coaching, the filming, the marketing, and the self-promoting. I don't like, but I know it's a big part of the business. And if I want to be able to reach more people and, share my content with them and help them have a more awesome life, then I need to be doing it. And so the schedule kind of forces me to do that. And last, you will see here, I have just, if you're curious, Barcelona style, because the first time I followed a schedule like this was in Barcelona, and it was off the charts in terms of productivity. So these are the different activities. And then what I did is I took these and I put them on different cue cards. Don't make fun of my writing, okay? It's terrible, I know. And there's more than this. So I basically made cue cards for all the different activities I need to do to achieve my goals. And then at the beginning of the week, I place them here. So these are all like free moving. They just sit there, and then I place them at the start of the week. So like we can look at today. Today's Monday. I had filming. Now originally, I had this post that I added. I had planned to do a video about becoming a digital nomad, and it is just too dark in this room to do it. I realized I should film it sort of outdoors just because of the theme of that video. Like being a digital nomad, it should sort of have a little more lively background. And because this room is gray, the camera footage was not looking good. So decided to do this video instead. Next is general time around PR, public relations, and interviews. So one of my goals right now is to be a guest on more podcasts and do more of the media. And apparently there will be something with Inc. magazine that I need to submit a quote to this week. So I'll be working on that quote for them. And then going through here, profile optimization is basically I have, like on Amazon, I have an author profile. On Udemy, I have an instructor profile. I have all these different profiles online that some haven't been updated for a few years, and they don't really fit kind of what I do now. So I just want to go through and make sure that's all aligned, especially before I do the PR stuff, where more and more people might be kind of finding me. Then I have team time, which is just working with my contractors and kind of working on the systems we're doing together to keep things organized. Admin, social, and email. This is everything that I basically involves reactive. So up until this card with the green writing, I actually don't check email. And yeah, so this is all proactive work. I do all this. Editing and writing is I go to a cafe and I work on the new book. So I have it in print. I bring all the pages with me and I just go through and work on sort of what's missing, what I can eliminate, all that. So this is the first time I check email, which is usually around 5, 6 o'clock, and often the only time. And then today I have 2 coaching calls. And then you can see the rest of the week, kind of how I break it down and schedule. There's a few other things I'll point out. So task time, for instance, this is around, I have this list of tasks that builds up. That is things like optimizing my homepage, improving parts of my website, tweaking different things so that, for instance, if you visit my site, you'll see it will ask you to join and get this free email training I have, the Life Design Approach, which is awesome, by the way, and you should do that. And there's something called conversion rate, which is what percentage of people actually join who see that. And if you increase that, it's really good for business. And that's something I never spend time on unless I force myself to do it. So that's something I've been doing more and more. Same, you can see here, newsletters, right? I mentioned before that I sometimes struggle with being consistent with that. So I build that into the day. Now, let me explain these cards. The way I've done it to roughly manage the time is each cue card represents 2 hours of time. And then I can tear it, so that is half a cue card. It represents 1 hour of time. This is, I believe, a quarter, so it represents 30 minutes of time. And that's how I've done it, really manually, just to look at the time. So the way I treat it was something like working on my newsletters here, let's say, is I don't do it based on goals specifically on this sort of stuff. I just say I'll spend 2 hours on that. And so when I see that, I just put in that time. I figure out what needs to get done in that area of my business to improve. And as I said, I do have a task list that builds up. So if I can't think of something, I can go there and go through a lot of to-dos. But I like doing that because there's certain things, like especially around the marketing and the promotion side of things, that I don't love doing, but if I don't do, I can't have a successful business and I can't reach more people and help more people and all that. So I put it down as a block where I have to work on that for the time, and that really helps me there. All right, I'm going to switch back to the other camera, I think. Oh, I'll just say the Post-it notes are all just basically if I want to specify. So on Friday, you'll see here, I review the week, I look over kind of what I've done, I plan the next week. And there are times, so that's just laying out the cards. The Post-its are when I think of something specific I want to add in that time. So like the video I want to film or something like that, I will add it then as notes to it, if that makes sense. So since I've started on using this approach, I have had phenomenal success in terms of productivity and getting things done. And usually, like your typical organizational systems do not work well for me. And there's a few things that I think really contribute to that, and I want to share why this, hold on, I'm going to check that I'm still recording. I am, good. So there's a few things that I think contribute to this. One is that I'm starting the day with something that I enjoy and that I'm relatively good at and that has a long-term impact. In my case, that is writing and editing. So now it's working on this new book, but that may change, right? It might be writing a blog post, it might be writing another book, it could be whatever. I have a friend who does a similar thing, but he does programming in the day, right? It could also be filming first thing in the day. What this does is it gives you this satisfaction that even if the rest of the day, so I go and do the writing work before I have lunch. So even if I eat lunch, I have maybe too much food, I get tired, I get distracted, the rest of the day goes away. I feel like I've done something that I can be relatively proud of for the day, right? I've spent 2 hours working on the book. Awesome, I can feel good about that. The thing though that happens is by giving that time to something that you're good at and that you feel is serving one of your longer term goals, is you feel really good about yourself, it boosts your confidence, and then you go into the afternoon feeling great and have an even more productive time. So I found that by spending the 2 hours in the morning on, in my case it's always been writing, that it really propels me into having a successful afternoon because I go in like I've already won the battle and there's no risk of guilt or feeling like bad about the day or anything like that, and it works really well. The other thing that's really important with this is having the cutoff at the end of the day of ideally some kind of a plan, right? So that could be at 4 p.m., 6 p.m., 7, whatever it is for you, where you have something else to do. And so here I have my admin cards, right? I have these cards. It can be a 30-minute block, a 60-minute block I give myself, but I treat it very quick. I start my email and I go through and then I go out, I have plans. So I'll start at say 5:30 and at 6 I have to leave my house and go do something. That has an insane change on productivity when it comes to how I respond to emails. So I'm someone that tends to overthink, and depending on the type of email, like recently I was essentially negotiating with people and it would lead me to all this thinking like, well, I don't know, I don't want to offer them too much, but if I offer them too little, I could offend them and this sort of thing. And that went on for a while with a few different email chains that were around similar topics. And then I started this new system, and what I found is because I only had 5 minutes to get these emails done, kind of by the time I got to them in the day, is I would just go with my gut instinct and respond. And it worked out fine. People were like, yeah, okay, that's good. And so I found it's really helped me shift from a bit more of a creative mindset to more of kind of a business tycoon, sort of busy person mindset of when I get emails, I'm now much more decisive. So I don't overthink, I don't get worried about what I should say. I just respond and get to the point really quick. And I found that's made me much more effective, which then allows me to do much more of my creative work, of my writing, of my filming, and all this kind of stuff. So I found that really effective, doing email just at the end of the day and in a limited amount of time. I've been good on 20 to 30 minutes a day, even less on some days. I don't know about your environment, you might have more, you might have less than me, but just to give you a time frame, it doesn't need to be something extreme in terms of how much time you spend. There are a few other benefits to this I found. The reason I implemented this system actually, it was a reaction to getting really unproductive, becoming really unproductive through the last couple months because I've just recently hired a bunch of contractors to help me with my business. And what I found is I got so engaged in kind of training them and solving their problems. And I made the mistake of communicating via WhatsApp because I like sending voice notes, that it just took over my days and I didn't have time for myself, because I'd get a message from them in the morning, then I'd start replying, and then I'd get sort of thinking about that, and then it would just ruin the day. So I made this firm decision where I told them I would only check email once a day. Do not send me WhatsApp messages, and moving to a more traditional approach of having like weekly reports, a weekly meeting, and then they're just expected to get the work done. And if there's problems, we discuss it on those weekly meetings instead of this ongoing back and forth. And that has been phenomenal. So in 1 week, when I first made this change, I went from really like frustrated, not like in one of my least productive periods of recent memory, to being insanely productive and focused, because it shifted how I do email. It shifted how I'm dealing with contractors or people working for me in terms of our communication and everything else. And the third thing that I found was it really changed how I was planning the week. So if you go into the week in more what I call reactive mode, so Monday morning comes, you open your computer and you're like, all right, what do I have to do now? You'll start following other people's priorities, right? You respond to messages and you are then working for them essentially. By planning the weeks this way, by not checking email until 7 o'clock, it forces me to plan the week around what I want to accomplish, my bigger goals, rather than around reactionary stuff. So if you were looking at, as I went over how I was spending the different blocks of time, they're all very proactive things for the long-term benefit of my business, right? It's not like reactionary, like, hey, get Chris this. Like, you didn't see anything on there about like, hey, get this back to Bob. Hey, do this. Hey, like, make sure to do that. It was very proactive stuff about things I want to build and create or improve that will have a ongoing benefit for my business. And that is huge. The way you get to thinking that way is take out the email in the first part of the day. And by email, I also include like Facebook or anywhere else that people might contact you where they want to pull you out of your work. So could be WhatsApp, Facebook, that sort of thing. That really rewires your brain, because if you don't have any reactive tasks you need to do, then you look at your week and it's all open and you're like, all right, what do I do now? And you have to think of ways that you can actually grow your business and do things properly. Now, if you're a freelancer where you're working for, like you're a freelance writer, as I know some of you or many of you are, the way that I would take this schedule, and I've done it before as a freelance writer using a very similar approach, is you just build in writing blocks. So you could do 2 hours in the morning, like you see I have, but you could do like 2 more in the afternoon. And that would basically be like client production work, I would call it. So the work you do to deliver to your client would go in that time. Then you'd have separate time that would be like, what I did is I grouped client meetings with marketing time. And so if I had client meetings, I'd meet with them then. If I didn't, I would use it to work on my marketing strategies and grow my business. So that way I would have meetings with clients during that time, that kind of thing. So if you are doing some kind of freelance work for people, definitely dedicate time to the production, whether it's creating graphics, writing, editing, whatever you're doing for your clients. Have time for that, then have marketing time, then have your kind of admin email time separate from all that. And don't worry, your clients will be cool with it. If you explain this to a client that, hey, I follow this Dan guy, he told me don't check email all day so I can deliver better work and be a better freelancer. If you tell them that and they don't buy into it, they say, no, I need you to reply to messages right away, then that probably isn't the kind of client that you actually want to be working with, because they're going to really drain your productivity. As I mentioned before, I found that over the last month or two, when I really opened myself up to being always in communication with team members and stuff like that, it destroyed my productivity. And it will do the same to you if you let your clients always kind of contact you rather than focusing on what you actually need to get done. So as you saw, I had originally planned to film a video about digital nomads today, and I decided I wanted to share this instead. I usually don't share too much stuff about actually my own business and what I'm doing, but I found this really helpful and I thought I would just sort of like pull the curtains back and share it. I'd love to know your thoughts on it. If you found this helpful, is there something I left out? As I said, I didn't really plan this as something to like teach. It's more something I've been doing and I've been telling a few friends about, and I thought I would just share it with you the same way I've been sharing it with some friends. And so I might have left things out. I might not have covered certain parts. And if that's the case, just ask me below in the comments. As well, I've been pondering creating some kind of a program themed around this. So for those of us that have a little bit of a crazy mind, that are more creative, that maybe are a little ADHD or just don't like the traditional systems of like getting things done, that don't work for people who aren't really anal and analytical, creating some kind of a system or program to help with that. If you'd be interested in that, let me know in the comments below, or I guess you can contact me through my website as well, and then I'll ponder it more if it's something that I should invest the time, some of the valuable time on my board there in terms of creating that program. So let me know that as well. And if you're not currently subscribed to the channel, then do so. You've made it this far. You obviously like me. We get along well. We've got a little rapport going on. So subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you in more videos that will help you have a more awesome life. Thanks for watching. Ciao.